Today I'm going to teach you why your tight hamstring isn't actually the problem, and how this X teaches us that our bodies are less like a diesel truck and more like a Prius. How you can fix it with these techniques that I use on Olympic runners. Even if you've tried a bunch of other approaches that didn't work, this video is for you. Her hamstring had been funky for months. Nothing was really broken, nothing was torn. That doesn't show up on imaging, but absolutely shows up at the finish line. Every single person she'd seen had looked at exactly the wrong place, her hamstring. She'd done everything right. Pain's down from where it was, but it's still not right. Still not feeling like her leg. So on the first session, I worked on her jaw and her neck, not her hamstring. Her hamstring absolutely let go. She looked at me like I was a wizard. She went from being elated to being frustrated. And she muttered, "Why didn't someone else frickin' do this?" I had to explain to her that our system is focused on, you show up in pain, you got a tight hamstring, or there's pain in the back of your leg, maybe it's sciatica, or maybe it's a pulled hamstring. But we aren't trained to focus on the whole chain. And this is one of those things that even professional athletes don't understand. And one of the things that I had her do was to skip. The cool thing about skipping is when you're skipping, you can't have a serious face because it's such a fun sort of jovial movement. It makes you feel like you're a kid again. So what it does is it actually quickly stretches the deep hip flexors and forces a pumping of the arms. And what that does is resets what's called this posterior oblique sling. This painter's tape is going to show you that your body isn't a stack of parts. It's one connected system that's designed to transfer force diagonally when you walk or run. So just like with this, when you pull it back, it releases, transfers the energy one way, and then captures it on the way back. That force travels through everything in between and comes out on the other end. So you see, you don't see it in the middle, but the energy is constantly traveling throughout your body. That's your jaw connecting to your hamstring. Your right hip talks to the left shoulder. Your left leg talks to the right arm. And that's actually why babies learn how to crawl before they learn how to walk. Cross-body connection is hardwired in from the beginning. That's how load gets shared when things are working properly. The specific connection that makes this happen is called the posterior oblique sling. The posterior oblique sling connects the glute up to the lat on the opposite side. In running, when the system is working, force loads and then returns. Loads and returns. Every stride captures energy. That's incredibly efficient. That's not just muscles pushing all the time. That whole chain is storing and releasing energy nonstop. So you're not just pushing, you're recycling energy. That's such a cool way to look at the body and the way that we move. The connective tissue that makes all this possible is called fascia. It surrounds every muscle and connects them through a continuous web throughout your body. Thomas Myers spent decades mapping out these lines in his work called Anatomy Trains. And what he found changed how a small group of clinicians, mostly in the sports world, think about pain entirely. When one part of that chain stops doing its job, something else has to pick up the slack. You start thinking that your body's falling apart, that it's just one thing after another, that this is what your body's going to be doing from now on. But it's not. The system is just dumping stress. It's not failing, it's adapting. And it'll keep doing that until you address the whole chain, not just the loudest part of it. The crappy thing, a lot of doctors have no idea that this exists. And so that's one of the reasons why they keep focusing on the painful hamstring, because that's what they were taught. The way we all learned in medicine is in the cadaver lab. And it's maybe a little gross for some people, but in the cadaver lab, we cut away all the tissue that connects it just to have a really clean muscle and a really clean nerve and really clean arteries and really clean veins. But the downside of cutting away all that tissue, which if you've ever cooked with the chicken breast, it's that white tissue that you see on the chicken breast when everything's sort of one color and the white's sort of like stringy and gummy. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's called fascia. And there's a guy called Thomas Meyer who had studied that for 25 years, and he basically sort of blew everyone's mind by pointing out how everything is connected along these specific pathways. To go in a slightly different direction, old school cars had an engine, and then all of a sudden Prius sort of blew everyone's mind by saying, hey, we can harness some of this energy when we're braking and actually make this system way more efficient. Our bodies were doing that anyway forever. So the problem is we keep bringing our electric car or hybrid cars to internal combustion mechanics who don't really understand this regenerative property of the car, or in this case, in our bodies. So being able to make sure that you find someone who is looking how everything is connected and looking at any inefficiencies in the system is absolutely critical. So as we are using our body, we're going to go back to that skipping drill. But before you do that, everyone can stand up right now and do this little drill with me right now, and you'll start to feel this, and then check it again after you skip. So the drill is stand up with me and lift one knee and the opposite arm, and feel how your muscles get tight all along that chain. That's called your posterior oblique sling. And are some areas starting to shake a little bit more than others? Are you feeling like if you pause and go to the other side, it maybe feels a little different on the other side? Those feedback loops of maybe a little bit more shake, or your toes are gripping a little bit more, or your arm doesn't want to stay straight in front of you, is a clue that your fascial line, or that these muscles aren't working as a team. And what that shows you is our bodies are going to be a little bit more of a whack-a-mole than normal. If you remember those games at the fair, you hit one and then the mole would pop up somewhere else. And that's unfortunately how a lot of us feel in our bodies if you don't have someone who's figuring out what's happening along this chain, because it feels totally unrelated that your hamstring would be connected to the other shoulder. And this athlete, she went on to tell me how she had a bunch of dental work done a few months prior, and that she had a bunch of pain in her jaw. And she was like, why didn't my dentist tell me this? And again, it's back to that old system where we're very siloed in our medical care. And so it's really hard for anyone to connect the dots. So hopefully this gives you a way to start to test yourself and then go out there and skip. I know it's going to seem silly, but tell them you're a professional athlete, and this is a drill that almost all the serious runners and particularly sprinters do, which is skipping. So again, go out there, try the skipping, and then I want you to go back and check back in with this and see if it's something that's helping. If the skipping helps, that's awesome. If it doesn't, make sure that you get to someone who's going to actually analyze what's going on, because it could be something as seemingly arbitrary as you had some dental work done and that tightened up one section of the fascia, and so the opposite end keeps pulling a lot more than it should. The key thing is to not demonize this guy. Pain is not our nemesis. Pain is actually telling us that something's wrong. And if we just keep powering through it, over time it degenerates the tissue, whether that's the joint or the muscle itself. And so being able to listen to pain, who I always think of as our hero, is the most important part. And don't get beat down by the fact that you haven't found the right person. Just keep looking for the right person who's going to look at this whole system, and then get out there, use your body, and have fun.